welcome to the September 16th State Board of Education meeting. If we could have a roll call, please.
Dr. Bertram?
Here.
Dr. Ernest?
Here.
Dr. Freitas?
Here.
Mr.
Yes.
Ms. Kwiatkowski?
Here.
Dr. Melton? Or Mr. Melton? Mrs. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Watts?
Here.
Mrs. Wicker?
Here.
Dr. Yeager?
Here.
Superintendent Ritz?
Here. If you would all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First is the approval of the agenda. I want to note that we will take discussion item D regarding high school diplomas around 1 o'clock when Commissioner Teresa Lubbers is available to be present. Also, I want to make note, and I think it's on your new agenda, that we moved the DWD certification list to discussion, and it is the last item on there. It should be on your new printed agenda as such. Any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries to approve the agenda. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion or changes to the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes are approved. Next item is the statement of the chair. I just wish to announce publicly the 2016 Indiana Teacher of the Year finalist. We have Lindsay Alessandrini, from Zionsville Community Schools, Sarah Ah from Prairie Trace Elementary School in Carmel Clay, Deborah Doherty from Riverview Middle School in Huntington County Community Schools, Nicole Dolson from New Augusta Public Academy North in Pike Township, Joseph Glowacki, from Connorsville High School in Fayette County School Corporation, Laura McCoy from St. Joseph Central Schools, Fort Wayne Community Schools, Catherine McLaughlin from Pine Tree and Sycamore Elementary Schools in Avon Community School Corporation, Jean Russell from Haverville Elementary School in Southwest Allen County Schools, Carolyn Schrock from Knightstown Elementary School in C.A. Beard Memorial School Corporation, and Amy Wackerly for the Center for Inquiry from Indianapolis Public Schools. So I just want to say we have an outstanding crew of Teacher of the Years this year, and I'm going to be involved in some point about narrowing that down, and just couldn't be more excited about the finalists there. U.S. Department of Education also granted Indiana approval for its equity plan, ensuring that we have high-quality educators in our low-performing schools. So I'm pretty excited about that plan being approved and ongoing dialogue with the implementation. And then we also approved the school improvement grants. So congratulations to Lakeview Middle School, Parkview Middle School, Bridgepoint Elementary School. I should say which corporation they're in. So Lakeview Middle School was in Warsaw Community Schools, Parkview Middle School in Greater Clark Community Schools, Bridgepoint Elementary, Greater Clark Community Schools, Francis Scott Key School in Indianapolis Public Schools, Hosford Park Elementary and Lake Ridge School Corporation, Bon Air Elementary and Kokomo Community School Corporation, Lincoln School in Evansville Vanderbrook School Corporation, and Washington Middle School in Evansville Vanderbrook School Corporation. So congratulations to those schools and with that competitive grant. Comments from board members? Yes, Sarah.
I would also like to echo my congratulations to all of Indiana's Teachers of the Year, and specifically the 10 finalists that were just named by the department. I also would like to recognize the Indiana Association of Public School Superintendents, who just selected their 8 district winners, and just take a moment to brag on District 5's winner, Dr. Maggie Horniman, who is from my own district and very well deserving of that honor. So my congratulations to all those involved.
Other comments?
Just a
Board?
couple,
Oops.
Superintendent.
Yes.
Diplomas, I know, is coming up later, I think, and I'll
reserve comments. I just want you to know that I'm receiving many, many comments, emails, letters, phone calls from constituents, the frontliners, which would be our building principals and superintendents and counselors. I know you're going to take things further, so I'll stop there.
It's an important topic.
Assessment update, again, we're still concerned about that. We see what was a 4-week delay turn into a 6-month delay, and we're still looking for some answers and hopefully some improved calendars or improved dates, and I think you're probably going to take us there a little bit later. Just to remind the board and the public, here's what a 10th grader this year takes: PSAT, end of course assessment in English Language Arts, end of course assessment in math, an I-STEP test, and PSAT, which adds up to about 16 hours. Now, I know it's 2016 only, and some of that disappears, but sympathies go out to those sophomores and the kids and their parents, and hopefully some of those will disappear to shorten that testing time. And I know the department did a great job last year of shortening the testing time for other grade levels. It just so happens that the ECAs still have to be taken this year, so at the 10th grade level. And this next item I'm hearing a lot about. It has nothing to do with DOE, State Board of Ed, and that's dual credit licenses that I think are coming up and to be enforced in 2017. Specifically, if the recommendations go through as presented, the state would lose the vast majority of their dual credit instructors at the building level. I haven't seen any data that says, and I have to assume that part of that dual credit licensure change is maybe because of student non-performance. I haven't seen any data that says our kids that leave high schools with dual credit and college credit experiences, which is what the legislator wanted us to do, and the buildings did a great job of implementing legislative requests in providing those dual credits. Now all of a sudden our instructors aren't good enough, and I don't see the validity in that. I don't see any value in changing that, so hopefully we can work together. And I know there's going to be a large group of parents who are going to be upset that all of a sudden, because their kids are accelerated students or can handle the dual credit curriculum, and we're saving those parents thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars with their first or second year or anything in between, any percentage in between. As they entered college with some college credit, that might disappear simply because there's a change in licensure. So I don't see the value in that. I'd love to see the data that says our students are not performing, if that's the reason. My last one, CTB / Pearson. I've asked for consequences for non-compliance of the contract. I don't know where we are with that. We're still working on that, or where that is. I know that CTB, as of today, still has not passed any information on to Pearson, and that should have been done June 1st or before. And I'm again calling on CTB to upgrade their resources and to get that job done that they are contracted to do. Still very frustrated. Our constituents across the state are also very frustrated. And we're still shortchanging children because of CTB's failure to comply with their contract.
Thank you. Gordon?
I'd just like to echo the congratulations that fellow board members have offered up to the 2016 Indiana Teacher of the Year candidates or finalists, the top 10. I'd especially like to call out a teacher from my daughter's own school here in downtown Indianapolis, CFI 2, third grade teacher Amy Wackerly at Indianapolis Public Schools. I think to follow up on Dr. Yeager's comments as it relates to school grades and how that is going, I want to congratulate the Indianapolis Public Schools for taking a very important step recently to approve teacher raises. And I think that's really substantial because those teachers in the Indianapolis Public Schools have now received raises in, I believe, 5 years. So I want to commend IPS, their leadership, and all those who worked to negotiate and finalize that contract to get that done. I think it's a really positive step for IPS. I would like to point out, however, that though those raises are retroactive to July 1, the teachers will not be receiving those raises until the grades come in. So I think that adds an extra element of importance for all of us, for our vendors, to move forward expeditiously to get the job done, get those grades in, and without undue delay. It's important for the teachers in our classrooms. Thank you.
Any other comments, Vincent?
Yes, I just one comment, and this is regarding Dr. Yeager's point with dual credit, and something that I'm very passionate about in this state and really nationally. And I would suggest that the position of the Higher Learning Commission is both misguided and irresponsible. And from a number of perspectives, but one is I would like to see evidence of students matriculating at the university with or without dual credit perform better at their high school coursework taught by a master's degree teacher. Where is the evidence to support that? Secondly, is there any research to support that a master's degree or additional 18 hours in a subject area makes someone a better teacher? Or are there other types of learning experience that teachers have that make them outstanding educators? And we know there are a lot of professional development opportunities and opportunities for other credentials outside of a master's degree that could lead to more effective teaching. And also, even looking at students transferring from community college to four-year universities, how do those students perform at the four-year institution compared to students coming to the four-year institution from a high school with dual credit? And another question I have is, how does this, and will this disproportionately affect low-income children and children in disadvantaged schools? And places where it's really difficult to find teachers to begin with, now these students are coming with opportunity to earn dual credit, where we've had a strong policy in this state to support dual credit, and now we're seeing this greatly diminished. And I think it's going to be detrimental to our state and for our students. So I think we have an obligation to step up and make it very clear that we should demand evidence that this kind of policy is going to affect the outcomes that we are seeking.
So Commissioner Lubbers will be with us today about 1 o'clock, so we'll share those questions with her, and we'll be having very serious dialogue about this because it does have a negative impact on our dual credits.
And I'd also like to get to the real reason why this policy has been introduced. I want to know how many credit hours are actually granted at universities from dual credit, and what is the true cost in higher education to granting dual credit. And I think we have to get to the root cause of why this kind of policy is being introduced now and somewhat randomly. Thank you.
Byron?
I'd like to also be redundant and honor all of the Teacher of the Years. Having been a part of the selection committee, Superintendent Ritz, I'd like to commend your staff, Sarah Pease, who did a great job of coordinating that. That is not an easy task to complete, and I commend her and the other department individuals who worked with us on that. And I come away inspired after spending a day with all 10 of them. I don't know how you can't be inspired. It makes me want to go back to the classroom every time I'm there. It's too bad that everyone can't hear them like we do, because we would not have a teacher shortage if we could. So I'd just like to commend them, and the ones that were selected at the local level. I think that's probably the bigger honor, is being selected by your local school to be a Teacher of the Year. So I commend all of them. The other piece that I would mention is from a charter school loan perspective. I know I've gotten some contacts from folks still being confused about that. I know we had lots of questions at the last meeting about that, and the deadline coming up for the 30th, and I think we either have very few or no applications at this point. I would suggest that we look at, to the board staff, that we look at extending that deadline either to the end of October or wherever it would be appropriate with the final true-up for count days there in October. So those would be my comments there.
Any other comments?
One more,
Yes,
Superintendent.
Steve?
Byron, speaking up, reminded me that our last board meeting, we talked about reimbursement or payment to charter schools that was somehow overlooked or somehow missed. Has that been resolved?
That is on our agenda today under
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, so we'll cover that and.
We will.
Okay.
Any other items for board member comments? All right, moving forward, we have general public comments, and we have many. So as I call your name, I'm going to indicate whether you have 5 minutes or 3 minutes. If you speak to a very specific topic, you have 5 minutes. If you're speaking in a general comment, then you have 3 minutes. So the first speaker today, and I tried to actually kind of put these in kind of categories, so for the board, so that you can hear all the comments that might be on similar topics put together. So first we have Todd Bess. Todd, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Superintendent Ritz and members of the board. Todd Bess, Executive Director with IASP, and I promise to not take 3 minutes looking at your agenda. Perhaps it is a redundant comment, but I want to bring forward again the issue of dual credit and the credentialing of those teachers. I mentioned this in the August meeting when we were down at IU Bloomington. I think you as board members have captured it well in your comments. And I also understand it is not a rule or decision you can change from these seats here, not necessarily a Department of Ed issue that they can just put forward. But we have lots of respected and bright people in this state that can think about this problem and approach it with creative solutions. And that may be a higher ed solution with preparing our teachers that are currently in place. That could be some legislative solutions on a very short-term basis to get us through this period of time when we don't have these master credentialed teachers. It could just be the fact that we can work with our superintendents to also find ways to incentivize those teachers to do so. But we have lots of resources in this state. It isn't just financial. That's probably going to impact us somewhat. But we've got to find a way to get those resources together and find solutions. We will be a part of finding those solutions as an association. It's too important for our kids to not do so. So I feel like I'm charging you a little bit, and that is certainly not my intent nor my authority. But I just want to give gravity to the situation that we have 2 very short years to make this happen. Later on the agenda, and Dr. Yeager mentioned this, we have a diploma discussion coming up that will directly impact that. We have 8F grades that we need to be issued so we can wrap up this last year, finalize evaluations, and move forward. In those grades is a target of 25% college and career ready. We're above that, but the anecdotal evidence I have from across the state says our dual credit credentialed teachers will be diminished greatly. We do have master level teachers, degreed teachers, but they may not be in that subject area, and they may not have the requisite 18 hours that the Higher Learning Commission is asking for. So I appreciate your comments and your attention to this. We'll be a part of the solution. Thank you.
And Todd, just because I know that you may not be here for the rest of the meeting and the discussion.
Right.
So as the superintendent of public instruction, as a state superintendent, I have been in contact with other state superintendents. So I happen to know Minnesota is highly upset about this as well. So our organization, CCSSO, which the state superintendents belong to, we're also looking at the issue and seeing what can be resolved and what we might be able to do.
Thank you very much.
John O'Neill, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Superintendent Ritz, members of the board. I'm John O'Neill with the Indiana State Teachers Association. I'll be very brief. I wanted to highlight an issue that I'm sure you're all aware of, and Mr. Hendry spoke about it earlier, and that's the delay in teacher raises and performance pay based on the A to F issues that we've had. I simply just wanted to bring to your attention that we at ISTA have been meeting with fiscal leaders of both houses in the legislature, and I spoke on this last week at the interim study committee on the issue. So the legislature is fully aware of this. We're continuing to outreach to legislators and try to find a solution as quickly as we can. We've been informed of a number of options, whether that entails a fix on Organization Day in November or another alternative solution, if that may not be necessary. But whatever happens moving forward, we've been involved with that, and we would like to work together with you and the legislature to find a solution as quickly as we can. As I pointed out in the hearing, we're going to be moving into the holiday season, and a lot of teachers really count on those raises at that time. And, we just all want to find a solution together. So I just wanted to make a statement about that. I know that you're all aware of it. I just wanted to let you know that we're working on it and doing our part, and we hope to work together on it. So thank you.
Thank you. It is a very important issue, and we'll be addressing it today, actually. Next is Emily Richardson. Emily, you have 5 minutes.
Madam Superintendent, just in the interest of time, maybe we could notify the audience who's on deck.
We could. Michelle McGowan, you'll be on deck next.
Thank you.
She's right there. Well, Michelle, you must have karma.
We are talking on the same topic, and we are colleagues. We were going to request to be able to combine our presentation and speak together. We don't intend to go for a full 10 minutes, but it would allow us to
That'll
not
be great.
replicate. Okay, thank you. Just- Superintendent Ritz, members of the board, several of you I've had the opportunity to work with. My name is Michelle McCowan. I am currently the interim executive director for the Indiana Charter School Board. I'm joined with my colleague Emily Richardson, who also works at the Charter School Board and has also worked at the department. She's been a second grade teacher, is also an attorney, and with whom I had the opportunity to do my PhD coursework down at IU. We are here to talk about Title I. I'm sure all of you know, but just in case anyone is in the audience is less familiar, Title I is designed to provide additional funds for supporting programs for the disadvantaged. This has been a part of the original Title I, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the original version that was passed in 1965. There have been different versions of it, but the dollars made available for the disadvantaged students have really been around since the original version. Just for background, we wanted to provide some demographics, statewide demographics on our public schools in Indiana, both our traditional public schools as well as our charter public schools. This just provides some demographic data on free and reduced lunch eligibility, which very frequently folks are using as a proxy to identify the students who are disadvantaged. Prior to our coming today to make this public comment, there have been several steps related to trying to understand what is going on with the Title I allocations as they affect charter schools. Initially, what happens with Title I is there's a planning allocation letter, and then there's also a final allocation letter. But the planning allocation letters go out every year in May. When the planning allocation letters for fiscal year 16 went out, several charter schools began to ask questions to the department. When some of them did not feel as though their questions had been fully answered, they began to ask their authorizers. In response to that, we, as an authorizer, did a public access request for the allocation levels, and we were provided that quite quickly, and that allowed us to kind of go through and try to piece together information to respond to the questions. Importantly, we are also, at the Indiana Charter School Board, updating what we call our startup manual, and we wanted to provide some information for our new schools to understand how Title I works, because that's something that a lot of times schools, when they're planning their budgets, they want to know what they can try to predict reasonably for budgeting purposes. In addition, we did a public access request for the Title I formula on July 28th, and we have not yet received that. There was then a joint phone call that I was able to participate on with Dr. Ernest, several representatives from the Department of Education, and several charter school leaders. And the phone call was very helpful. There were a variety of different informational pieces that were provided during that joint phone call. And one is that there was an overall cut in Title I funds made available to Indiana as an SEA, a state education agency. Additionally, in that phone call, we were told that hold harmless does not apply to charter schools. And I'll go into hold harmless with a little bit more detail in a few minutes. We were told that some of the reasons that charter schools were experiencing such significant cuts to their budgets was because the charter schools were what we call pulling students from township schools, and that the township schools themselves had experienced a decrease, and thus the charter schools experienced a decrease. Let me quickly explain how Title I works in Indiana, and I feel guilty to say this when you have Mrs. Kwiatkowski on your board who knows more about Title I than I do, but basically the traditional public school LEAs are allocated an amount from USDOE, who does a census poverty calculation. Then each charter school, public charter school LEA, they look at the student body population and from where those schools pull their students. And then from each traditional public school LEA, part of their original allocation then flows to the charter school. So that's why this last bullet I mentioned about the township schools allocation going down is relevant. We were also told on the call that IDOE uses what's called PE, or pupil enrollment, to calculate the Title I allocations, which was an important data point as we tried to piece together the formula. And we were told that IDOE has been using the same formula since 2003. Nothing had changed. We were not provided the particulars around the formula. We were told that it was very weedy and complicated, and they weren't going to go into that level of detail. In response to that phone call, I had already read the actual federal regulation that applies to Title I. It has very clear language around what's called hold harmless. And again, I'm going to show, I have copies of the reg for you all that can be distributed. But the regulation has very clear language that each LEA, local education agency, is to be held harmless, which is designed to address the ebbs and flows of dollars based on student population and allows for budget planning. The reg said that it applied to all local education agencies, and so my reading of it as an attorney was that it would thus apply to public charter school LEAs, especially since in Indiana, charter schools are considered their own LEA. That's for all purposes, Title I, special education, etc. So we reached out to the U.S. Department of Education just to clarify whether our interpretation of hold harmless was accurate. And we still have not received a direct response as to whether or not hold harmless does apply to public charter school LEAs. And with very little resolution, we then decided that between Emily's and my backgrounds and skill sets, we would just go through the data ourselves and try to piece together what the formula was.
So when we looked at the data, we looked at several different pieces. First, we looked at the pupil enrollment count, and that is very much publicly available. It is what populates the enrollment counts and the free and reduced lunch numbers on Compass, and we verified that by checking with schools to make sure the Compass numbers were matching with their pupil enrollment counts, as well as we talked to different people who had previously worked at the department regarding the feeding of pupil enrollment into the Compass. So we're sure that those numbers are accurate. The other things that we really looked at is we looked at the final allocations and the planning allocation spreadsheets provided by the department. So they're, all of the final allocations are available on its website, but the planning allocation we got through a public access request. And then the final thing we looked at was individual schools' Title I letters, planning allocation letters and final allocation letters. And that is, so the final allocation letter was issued in March or April, and the planning allocation letter was issued in May. And looking at both of those letters really gave us a view at how the allocations changed based on the school corporate legal settlement, right? So we had heard that that the decreases were due in part to the school corps of legal settlement getting less money. And so we first looked at an actual school district, right? So we looked at IPS, and those numbers are a little bit small, but what you can see is you can see the allocation, which is about $31,000 for FY15 final allocation to IPS. The transfer out of almost $12 million to charter schools, turnaround schools, and other types of LEAs within the IPS legal settlement. And then the final allocation amount, which is a little over $19 million. If you look at the planning grant, IPS got substantially less, well, a good amount less money, but the amount that was going out to other LEAs was substantially smaller, about almost $3 million less. In addition, if you look at where schools are pulling their money from, though IPS's money increased by 8%, for example, Avondale Meadows had a 27% decrease in its Title I planning allocation this year, and that is with steady enrollment over time. We look at a similar school in Gary. Again, we see that the decreases or increases in school corps of legal settlement are not matched by the charter school.
So really, really quickly, as we're running out of time, the hold harmless provisions that I've mentioned, and there are copies of this, are basically there to allow for budget planning, sustainability for schools. So even if you have changes, may we just finish our thought? Even if you have changes in your student population, you can know what the possible floor would be on your budgets, and charter schools were not held harmless.
Thank you very much.
And we're happy to provide, since we didn't get through all of it, an electronic version of the entire PowerPoint. So thank you.
That would be great. And it is on the agenda later today. Tommy Riddicks, 5 minutes. Will be followed by Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you to the superintendent and the rest of the board. My name is Tommy Reddix. I'm the executive director of Paramount School of Excellence. I serve on the Indiana Curriculum Instruction Association board. I also serve on a collaborative of charter school directors board. Wanted to address the same topic in Title I, but bring this to a site-based level so you would have an understanding of how it may impact schools at the site-based level. Our school is 89% free and reduced lunch. We serve 651 students. The prior year, we served 538 students. While IPS gained approximately 8% in Title I funding, our school dropped 12% in Title I funding while gaining 15% in school enrollment. That 12% is above the hold harmless level for our free and reduced population. And so, again, I think it's going to be critical for this board to look at hold harmless and ensure that we're following federal guidelines and allowing charter schools to receive the same or equitable funding that we're seeing happening in IPS or relative schools. Now, when we talk about populations moving from one school to another and how the allocation should follow those students, it's important to realize where we're located on the Near East side of Indianapolis that we are 99.2% currently allocated with students who would otherwise be going to IPS. We have 0.8% of our students coming from outer townships, and those outer townships are making up approximately $5,000 of our title allocation this year. And so the notion that our allocation would have dropped because of a township influx of students rather than an allocation following an IPS student wouldn't be correct. There's further concern that perhaps this hasn't been looked at with a straight enough focus, and there has been some blame cast in the outer circles on perhaps charter schools not applying correctly for their title funding. There's been a letter that has surfaced from the Department of Education asking charter schools to sign a sheet saying that they committed fault in how they applied and that they're willing to go through remediation in that process. That letter is of large concern to the charter school community, and I think that's an issue that should also be looked into. So, like I said to begin with, we're talking about a federal regulation on hold harmless law, and it's going to be really important for the members of this board to understand that law and understand how it applies to an LEA, which we definitely consider that we are as a public charter school. So I appreciate your time and attention to that topic.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Gonzalez, and will be on the topic of high school diplomas, which will be followed by Jan Huffman.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss this topic in front of the board. My name is Carlos Gonzalez. I'm the proud parent of a 12-year-old son with autism. My wife also is a teacher in Carmel Clay School, so this matter is very important to us as we go toward the future. So as we look at the proposed changes to the diploma requirements, there are a couple of areas that I'd like to speak to, and number one is that within those guidelines changes that there's consistency across all schools, that all schools offer those same diplomas. I don't think that it's fair that in the state that if we have certain schools offering those diplomas, that why should we penalize students that don't live in those areas where those diplomas aren't offered. So that's one area. And the second area I'd also like to address in the form of IEPs. I think it's very important as we discuss the individual education plans that, similar to when you go to a doctor's office, you go to the bank, there's certain disclosures that are provided. I think it's important that we help educate the parents regarding what those diplomas mean. And what I mean by that is that, why should a student that's disabled or has a learning disability be penalized in the event that the parent makes a decision regarding their whether they're diploma bound or general diploma. I think it's important that they are provided the actual specifics of that diploma, and then also the consequences of what their decision could be. I really would think that we would want to allow the schools to provide a customized approach to teaching their kids in the event that something does need to change regarding that. So once again, I thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing the outcome of the proposed changes. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Jan Huffman, who will be followed by Jeff Huffman.
Good morning, Superintendent Ritz, members of the board. My name is Jan Huffman. I live in Noblesville with my husband, Jeff Huffman, who will also be speaking. I am a board member of the ARC of Indiana, but most importantly, mom to Nash, who's 14 and has Down syndrome. I'm also a parent representative of the State Advisory Council on the Education of Children with Disabilities, which is known as the SAC. As a SAC member, I'd like to present a letter written to you as the State Board of Education from Rich Burden, Chairman of the SAC. I believe there's a copy being passed out. Dear members of the Indiana State Board of Education, as Chairman of the State Advisory Council on the Education of Children with Disabilities, I appreciate the opportunity to share comments regarding the proposed changes to Indiana's high school diploma options. Members of the council are citizens of Indiana who are representative of the state's population and selected on the basis of their involvement in or concern with the education of children with disabilities. Members include parents, people with disabilities, teachers, state and local education officials, representatives of various state agencies, representatives of higher education institutions that prepare special education and related service personnel, representatives of non-public schools, and representatives of vocational, community, or business organizations concerned with the provisions of transitional services to children with disabilities. We are aware that the changes in Indiana's diploma requirements are being considered. Although we do not have specific comments related to the required math, science, social studies courses, we do have some thoughts we would like you to consider. A high school diploma is the key that opens the door for all students wanting to enter vocational education, post-secondary education, and the workforce. Currently, there are many students leaving high school without a high school diploma, therefore having limited opportunities for jobs and further education. Specifically, we are concerned about the number of students with disabilities leaving high school without a diploma. We are not sure why changes in the diploma structure are being considered. However, we want to make sure the unique needs of students with disabilities are considered. We urge you to think about the consequences of any change to the diploma structure. We hope you are in agreement that all students should have the opportunity to earn a high school diploma and an opportunity to explore appropriate career pathways and develop applicable skills in order to have a bright future after high school. It has come to our attention that although the state of Indiana provides for a variety of diplomas, some school corporations do not offer all of these diplomas to the students. We urge you to require that all school corporations offer all diplomas approved by the State Board of Education. A student's opportunity to receive a diploma in the state of Indiana should not be limited by which school corporation they attend. We also ask you to consider if these proposed changes will benefit all students and the future workforce of the state of Indiana. More classes do not necessarily equate to better knowledge and success. Students need the opportunity to develop their skills under the instruction and direction of quality teachers. The members of the State Advisory Council on the Education of Children with Disabilities respectfully ask you to consider these proposals and keep all students in mind as you consider making these changes. The decision you make will impact the future of Indiana students. Sincerely, Richard Burden, Chairman. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Jeff Huffman, who will be followed by Tammy Herm.
Good morning, Superintendent, school board members. Thank you for allowing me to be here this morning. I guess with this diploma issue, we'll start maybe with a little levity. As I was driving down here, a line from Kevin Costner in the movie Black and White came to mind. He said, "I can't do math, that's why I became an attorney." So maybe the underlying goal here is to drastically reduce the number of attorneys in the state of Indiana, but hopefully not. Again, my name is Jeff Huffman. I am currently serve at the pleasure of Kim Dodson as the chair of the ARC of Indiana Education Committee, but today I speak as a parent and for myself. My wife Jan and I and our son Nash are from Noblesville, Indiana. Our son Nash is 14, a freshman at Noblesville High School, manager of the football team, and happens to have Down syndrome. We have advocated for Nash throughout his education to be fully included in the general education curriculum with the supports of special education services as we continue to work toward the dream of a high school diploma. I wish I could say that this has been an easy process, but it is not, since we have been pressured to take him off of the diploma track since the 3rd grade. Nash entered his freshman year on track to earn a diploma this year, partially because our advocacy brought to the attention of Noblesville schools that they did not offer the Indiana General Education Diploma. Working with the administration and school board, that was rectified when they discovered that 18 additional students the prior year would have graduated with a diploma if they had recognized those requirements. So 18 folks left Noblesville schools without a diploma because they didn't recognize the Indiana State General Education diploma. I am here today to share our frustration with the new proposed diploma structure. By increasing the graduation requirements in math and science, in both new options, we are once again making it more difficult for students to earn their high school diploma. Not every student is destined for college. Not every student needs to be proficient in algebra and biology to garner a good paying job. We are told that these options are built into there are options built into these two proposed versions, but our school corporation confirmed yesterday that they do not offer integrated math, and they have no idea what a state-approved alternative is. So with what you will be told are options, we found out they're really not options at all. With the current general education diploma, things are much clearer, but still not all corporations offer the general education diploma. We hear much talk in Indiana about economic development and job creation. This is an example of something that goes against that grain. We are starting to see career centers, internships, and other programs come back to our state, yet these diplomas concentrate on math and science and the vision that everyone is destined for college. An individual that does their best in general education, participates in extracurricular activities, tries some internships and job training sponsored by the school, should have a chance at a diploma versus a certificate of completion, or as I refer to, the certificate of I showed up. An individual that leaves high school with a diploma versus a certificate has higher self-esteem, can answer the important question on a job application that yes, they have a high school diploma, and will be a valued tax-paying member of society versus a potential drain on the entitlement system. The Department of Labor has quantified the disability community as a $1.3 trillion market segment. Walgreens has shown that hiring individuals with disabilities is good business, with lower workers' comp claims, less absenteeism, and equal or higher productivity. You soon will be given a document this afternoon, just like this, showing that 90% of the students will be in the college and career diploma area, and we're only talking about 10% that are affected by these other options. Well, going back to the attorneys in math, maybe an attorney wrote this because the 90 and 10 only includes the two diploma options, yet certificate of completion is addressed in the presentation that you will see, and 90 and 10 equal 100, so I guess the folks that are on certificate of completion don't fall into this category for discussion, because there's more than 100. I hope that you will take all of these items into consideration while reviewing the proposal. I hope that you will send them back to the drawing board and include the current general education diploma in this mix. It's what's best for students, it's what's best for Indiana, and in the words of our governor, for Indiana, the state that works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tammy Herm will be followed by Kim Dodson.
Ladies and gentlemen and members of the State Board of Ed, I thank you for allowing me the time and opportunity to share a few comments regarding the proposed diploma options of Career College Ready and Workforce Ready. I am Tammy Herm. I'm here representing ICASE, which is the Indiana Council of Administrators of Special Education. So, just as schools are expected to have a continuum of services for students, especially those with special education needs, ICASE believes that there needs to be a continuum of school outcomes or diploma options for all students in all schools. ICASE does not support a special diploma, rather multiple options that will show the work and success for every level of student. ICASE believes that any option needs to be available for all students, not just those with special needs. There must be a consistency in diploma availability across the state to support the mobility of our children and our families. ICASE supports all schools offering all Indiana diplomas to accommodate individual student outcomes as to not penalize students when they don't have access to all diploma options. Many students, including those students with special needs, have gone on to have successful careers after completing their high school education. Many of these careers do not require a college degree. This opportunity needs to be afforded to all students regardless of their post-secondary visions. As always, iCase is available and willing to be at the table as conversations continue regarding any of and all of our students' futures. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Kim Dodson, we follow by Mary Roth.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to provide some comments. My name is Kim Dodson. I am the Executive Director of the ARC of Indiana. For those of you not familiar with the ARC of Indiana, we are a statewide organization that advocates on behalf of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. Certainly, issues surrounding special education is a top priority for us. We have been closely monitoring the conversation taking place through the Core 40 Subcommittee of the Indiana Career Council regarding Indiana's high school diplomas. We have concerns about the proposed changes as we want to make sure that students receiving special education services have an opportunity to earn a diploma rather than being issued a certificate of completion. We have no idea what the magic number is for credit hours that makes one student successful and another not. We feel that there is not a magic number, and it really depends on the teaching and the student because every student learns differently. We feel we cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach. The state's current diploma structure allows students who excel in math and science to earn a technical honors diploma. It allows for those who excel in other areas an academic honors diploma, and for those who are simply able to achieve the requirements of a Core 40 diploma. Then the general education diploma is an option for students who struggle. These four options take into account that all students excel in different areas. We encourage you to question if the proposed changes will benefit all students, as we feel the current structure could if all schools were required to offer all diplomas. This issue is not addressed by the proposed structure currently. Currently, not all school corporations offer all diplomas approved by the state. Therefore, we have students who could have earned a general education diploma if only their school would have offered one. Instead, they leave high school with a certificate of completion that limits them in finding a job, continuing their education, and gaining independence in life. As the conversation continues, we strongly encourage you to support requiring all schools to offer all diplomas the state approves. Students should not be penalized because of where they live and go to school. This summer, the ARC did a survey to gather input regarding the proposed changes. Of the nearly 500 respondents, 43% were families who had a student that would be affected by the proposed changes. 94% of the respondents agreed that students receiving special education services should be provided a diploma option if the student can demonstrate appropriate progress on their education goals. And 96% stated that all schools should be required to offer all diplomas. As we talk to students with disabilities, most of them talk about their dreams of working and living in the community. They dream of having a job, paying taxes, and being independent. Unfortunately, most jobs require a high school diploma. Usually one of the first questions asked on a job application is, do you have a high school diploma or are you a high school graduate? When you check no, you oftentimes don't get a chance for an interview. Then we have kids sitting at home, their knowledge regressing, and their opportunities for the future severely limiting. If you would allow me, I'd like to take off my hat as being executive director of the ARC to talk to you as my role as a mom. I have two children, both who attend Westfield School Corporation. I have a senior and I have an 8th grader. My senior is very high achieving. He will leave high school in May, earning the requirements for the technical honors diploma, the academic honors diploma, and then in Westfield we are doing a pilot high achieving diploma called the capstone. So Logan will be leaving high school earning all of those diplomas. As we took him on college visits this past summer, we were very much complimented regarding Indiana's diploma structure, and Logan was complimented for showing the tenacity to do all of the requirements for all of those diplomas. And these are very good colleges we went to: Stanford, Vanderbilt, Cal Poly, Cal Berkeley, Rose-Hulman, and Purdue. So Indiana was recognized because they offered this array of diplomas that students could achieve and show their acceleration in all of these areas. Then I also have an 8th grader, Mackenzie. Mackenzie is diagnosed with severe ADD. She has an IEP. She is currently on the Core 40 diploma. I absolutely have no intent that I think that she's actually going to earn the Core 40 diploma. I actually think that she will earn a general education diploma. But as I look at the workforce ready requirements, I do not think that she could achieve those new requirements. Math is not her strong suit. She would certainly have trouble meeting those requirements, which means when we talk to her now about her goals of being a chef or working and going on to business college, she would not have the opportunity to do so. So as you talk about the conversations, which is certainly not an easy one, we certainly ask you to keep in mind that you represent all students, not just the high achievers, but those students who also are receiving special education students, because the decisions you make will certainly have an impact on their future. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. Mary Roth, followed by John Elsesser.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Superintendent Ritz and the other board members for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm Mary Roth. My husband and I have a daughter with autism and another daughter with ADHD, and I provide support to families through my work with the Autism Society of Indiana. I want to express some concerns regarding the proposed diplomas. While the changes do not directly impact my own children because of their age, I do have several concerns as an advocate for persons with disabilities such as autism. My main concern has to do with the fact that high school students are not currently required to offer the general diploma. For many students, there is no option between the current Core 40 diploma and the certificate of completion. Practically speaking, some students even drop out of school at this point, which skews graduation rates. We must have an intermediate alternative between these two ends of the spectrum, diploma-wise. And I am asking strenuously, I'm begging you to require, if these changes are imposed, require that all high schools offer the workforce-ready diploma. Otherwise, you are sentencing many of these students to a life without jobs, without the dignity that comes with work, to a life living off the system with little opportunity to raise their quality of life. Second, the addition of the capstone to the workforce-ready diploma is problematic. Many people don't know what their future career is going to be in high school. Many people change careers over the course of their life. Furthermore, if you don't require that all high schools offer this diploma, the capstone edition will further deter schools who aren't already offering it and may cause those who are to reconsider. I also object to the exclusion of the word career in the title of the Workforce Ready diploma. Just because someone doesn't go to college doesn't mean they cannot have a satisfying and lucrative career as an electrician, for example. There is no presumption of a college education in the definition of the word career. And I also know many college-educated people who did not have a career. Last, I am fond of repeating what someone once told me. School is the only time in a person's life when we expect them to be good at everything. For people with autism, there is a weaker correlation between success at school and success in life than there is for neurotypical individuals. I have talked with dozens of parents and individuals who were not successful in high school, but who are ready, willing, and able to contribute to society. There's an unending potential list of problems in high school exacerbated by having a disability that involves social difficulties. I will provide one personal example. My daughter with autism is a high school junior. She is pursuing a Core 40 with academic honors diploma, but she's quiet and she appears to be less competent than she actually is. As a result, her homework, her tests and quizzes are routinely misgraded. Correct answers are marked incorrect because her peers and teachers have a subconscious bias against her abilities. Tests are not sent home. She has trouble advocating for herself when grading errors are made. So I have to drive to school and look at these tests, which is something that most parents don't have the time or opportunity to do. Furthermore, there is no opportunity for me to review semester end exams. Therefore, the deck is already unfairly stacked against my daughter and her similarly disabled peers. Adding 4 credits to the college career diploma and 1 credit to the honors diploma will only add to problems like this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. John Elsesser, to be followed by Julie Baumgart.
Good morning, Superintendent Ritz, members of the committee. My name is John Elsesser. I'm Executive Director of the Indiana Non-Public Education Association. And for those of you new to the board, we're a membership association for private schools in the state of Indiana, serving over 400 schools across the state. I appreciate the opportunity to share a few comments, as my prior colleagues did, about the diploma changes and some possible unintended consequences for really all schools, but in particular, I'd like to bring something to your attention as it relates to non-public schools and faith-based schools in particular. First, many of our schools have additional graduation requirements over and above what the state requires. For most of our faith-based schools, that would include an additional 8 credit hours in theology or religion or whatever that particular school may call it. So thus, the Core 40 is already the Core 48, and an honors diploma requires 56 credits. And as most of you know, a typical school with a 7-period day, the maximum number of credits a student can achieve over a 4-year period is 56 credits. So our concern is that the unintended consequences may be, rather than increasing rigor and adding flexibility, it will restrict rigor and restrict flexibility. The additional math credits are really not as much of an issue for us. Most of our students are taking 4 years of math. The personal financial responsibility and the college and career readiness are the areas that we believe that we are already addressing through alternative ways within our school system. Had the pleasure in late August to meet with both Jennifer Berry and with Peggy Wild on this particular topic, and found them to be very open and receptive to both our concerns and exploring some alternative pathways to address that so that we can continue to address the intent of the changes in the diploma system, but allowing some site-based flexibility in how best to do that so that we can meet the needs of our individual students and our school communities. And I'd be happy to speak to any board members about this after the meeting, but thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Julie Baumgart, and is Representative Donna Shibley here?
Good morning. I would like to thank the board for this opportunity to share my thoughts about the proposed Indiana diploma requirements. My name is Julie Baumgart. I have been a school counselor for 15 years, and I'm here representing the Indiana School Counselor Association. First of all, ISCA would like to offer our formal support of the change in diploma structure. Currently, Indiana offers 4 diploma types, which include 59 different graduation pathways. As school counselors, we want our students and parents to make the best possible choices for each child's individual path, but the current number of options is often overwhelming, and some begin to disengage from the process because it is simply too cumbersome. Streamlining the diploma options while maintaining the academic rigor makes the process much more understandable for both students and parents, so thank you for that. We're also pleased with the way in which the honors diploma tracks have been merged to create one college and career ready diploma with honors. In addition to simplifying the process, it sends a valuable message that a diploma earned for excelling in a career and technical track is as important and valuable as one earned on an academic track. While we are largely in favor of the proposed changes, the role of a school counselor is to advocate for our students, and in that spirit, there are a few areas of concern or points of clarification we hope will be considered prior to adopting the final diplomas. One significant concern, which has already been mentioned this morning, is a pending change in teacher credentialing for dual credit, which is to go into effect with the 2017-18 school year. The Higher Learning Commission, which accredits the post-secondary institutions, including Ivy Tech, is calling for the increase in standards to require teachers to hold the minimum of a master's degree in the discipline or a master's degree in another area with 18 graduate credits in that discipline.
While not specific to the diploma plans outlined here, the availability of those dual credit offerings, referred to as transcripted college credits on the diploma plans, would be significantly reduced in the near future. And as we face a teacher shortage in Indiana, it may be even more challenging for schools to find teachers with advanced degrees. So we need to be cognizant of the potential impact that dual credit teacher credentialing could have on the attainability of our proposed diplomas for some students. Secondly, there's reference to college and career readiness sequences, which are not specifically outlined in the draft. It's our sincere hope that the proposed sequence concept offers some flexibility with a broad framework. For example, a student working toward a sequence in manufacturing could be permitted to select 6 credits from a list of approved manufacturing courses, as opposed to our current model, which dictates 6 specific credits. For students to complete the College and Career Ready Diploma with honors, AP and IB courses are separate from dual credit courses. In keeping with the spirit of rigor and flexibility, we would also propose the addition of a hybrid, which would incorporate 2 AP or IB credits with the exam and 3 transcripted college credits, which exists with our current academic honors diploma model. According to the Learn More Student Success Guides developed by ICHE and IDOE and issued to students this fall, agriculture employs 19% of all of our Indiana workers. Yet there is only one industry-recognized certification for school accountability on the currently proposed 2016-17 for agriculture, which has 6 state-approved pathway graduation plans. In the area of arts, AV, and communication pathway, which currently has 5 state-approved pathway graduation plans, there are no approved certifications. So while we recognize the opportunity for schools to submit a request to add certifications, given the role that they play in the proposed diploma options, we would hope that the IDOE and DWD will examine this area to help provide additional options for students pursuing careers in these areas and to fulfill the capstone graduation component as we move toward the new graduation diploma requirements. Our other concern is the potential that less of our special needs students may receive a high school diploma under the new system. The jump in math requirements from those of the current general's diploma is significant, not just in the number of courses, but the rigor of the proposed courses. These are students who already struggle to complete Algebra 1 and business math. The other area for consideration in the Workforce Ready Diploma is in the graduation capstone requirement. We believe the intent of this proposal is excellent, but given the limited number of certifications available, the potential loss of transcripted college credit offerings, and often a lack of transportation for some of your students, creating a difficulty in the work experience component, the capstone requirement could create a significant barrier to diploma attainment. We would propose for consideration the development of a 4th option, some type of work-ready certification, which would encompass the employability characteristics of attendance, completion of tasks, ability to follow directions, and those sorts of things that could reinforce those important job skills and ultimately allow our special needs students to receive their high school diploma and enter the workforce. Thank you very much, and we are always happy to serve as a resource to you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our general comments. The other speaker, it wishes to speak at the time we actually have the discussion on the topics. So with that, why don't we take a really quick break, and then we'll resume our agenda. So let's recess for about 10 minutes, and we'll resume at 11:20.